Hi, I'm Hudson. I'm a game designer and I occasionally make videos. I want to talk about Path of Exile 2, specifically the Witch. I don't usually like playing as minion master characters. Minions have a tendency to attack things off screen and start fights that I don't want to start. But I wanted to see for myself how Grinding Gear has approached this character. So let's talk about that. The Witch is an intelligence-based spellcaster that primarily uses occult skills, wands, and scepters. She presently has 3 ascendancy classes, the Infernalist, the Blood Mage, and the Lich. Her occult skills focus on summoning minions, cursing enemies, dealing chaos damage, and casting bone spells. I immediately noticed that there is a generous variety of minion skills, but there aren't many other skills that don't involve minions. There are only a few curses and bone and chaos spells available. Where are the curses? Where's the blood magic? Where's the unlimited power? Because I'm not fond of summoning minions, I made it a goal to attempt to make a bone mage build, and it didn't work out very well. At the time of making this video, there were only 3 bone skills in the game that don't involve summoning minions. 4 if you include Bone Blast, which is provided by Bone Wands. There's also not a Bone Mage Ascendancy class, so my options for this build were extremely limited. I found that strange considering that there are skills in the skill tree that relate to physical damage and bleed, and their icons even look like jagged bones. So let's talk about the bone skills. First, let's talk about Bone Blast. It just creates a sigil on the ground. What does that have to do with bones? It doesn't match the theme at all. And why does it have a delay? That doesn't feel good. I want my actions to be snappy. I want immediate gratification. It doesn't even look cool or feel impactful. Enemies struck by the sigil just glow for a moment. Next, let's talk about Unearth. This skill looks and feels great. Visually, it's the best of the bone skills, but its damage output is terrible. I understand that its purpose is to raise minions, but it looks like it should deal way more damage than it does. Next is Bone Cage. Based on the description, I inferred that this skill's purpose was to pin enemies. But strangely, in my build, it had the highest damage output of all of the bone skills, to the point that I used it as my main attack for majority of my playthrough. And I didn't mind that. I actually thought it was kind of cool, but if it's meant to pin enemies, why is its damage output so high? Also, it isn't even capable of striking some enemies. When I reached the Colossus in the Titan Grotto, I had to use a different skill to defeat it. And finally, let's talk about Bone Storm. This skill is a channeled spell that requires the player to charge it up and then release it. It looks really cool, but it feels terrible to use. It's a large investment with a large payoff. You aren't doing anything while you're charging it up, and again, I want my skills to be snappy. I want immediate gratification. This is actually a great example of a point that I made in my feedback video for Path of Exile 2. This is exactly the kind of skill that makes the game feel slow and sticky. Enemies will swarm the player while they're charging up this skill. I suggest changing this skill's functionality just slightly. It can still be a channeled skill, but instead of charging up the skill to amass bone spikes, just continually throw the bone spikes, and build up stacks of bleed or impale as enemies are repeatedly struck. This will balance out the skill's investment versus payoff and make it immediately gratifying for the player. I'd like to see more variety of bone skills. Skills like bone armor, bone spear, bone spurs, a wall of bones. I want it to be possible to make an interesting bone mage build. And as for curses and chaos magic, there's a limited variety of those skills too. There are only 3 occult curses: Enfeeble, which makes enemies deal less damage, Vulnerability, which makes hits against enemies ignore a portion of their armor, and Despair, which lowers enemy chaos resistance. The occult skills are really mostly minion skills, and I'd like to see more variety of other skills. Maybe some curses that are intended for specific situations. As for minion skills, there isn't much to say. The skills do what you'd expect them to do. You summon a variety of minions and they attack enemies for you. There's a skeleton that shoots arrows, there's a skeleton that throws fire, there's a skeleton that throws ice, there's a skeleton that casts lightning bolts, there's an angry skeleton that can enrage, and there's a big skeleton that can stun. Each type of minion fills a unique role, and most minions can be commanded to perform a specific action, and I like that feature. It gives the player the option to be more involved rather than just watching the minions do all the work. And I do appreciate the variety of minions, but I would like to see some more skills that don't just summon another kind of minion. Overall, I like the witch. I like her as a character, and I like her aesthetic and flavor. Mechanically, she isn't the kind of character that I would usually play, and I don't feel qualified to speak extensively on her toolkit, but I enjoyed the time that I had with her. I particularly liked how different she feels from the sorceress. They aren't just two halves of the same coin. They both feel very different, and they each have a unique flavor. So, those are my thoughts on the witch as she is right now. There's some things that I really hope will change, and others that have been done really well. I'm looking forward to seeing how the game develops in the coming months. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.